right. We're live.
Hey, everybody. It's Dale Jr. here, live in the Bojangles studio with my co-host Mike Davis. And this is the Ask Junior portion of the show presented by Xfinity. Xfinity with their 10G network. It's the fastest stuff out there and the most reliable. And they tell me to say that, but it is true. I've been a customer for a while, and the stuff kicks ass. So, anyways, hadn't been on here in a while. I want to say hey to everybody out there. I hope you're doing well. Hope you enjoyed the Fox portion of the NASCAR season. We're getting ready to fire up the NBC side here after an off week for Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Andrew is here in studio after going around and talking to all sorts of celebrities for the Next Level podcast. He's graced us with his presence, and he has the questions ready. Let's go, Andrew.
Yeah, you're welcome, Dale. No, this first question, we talked a little bit in Dirty Air about the return to NBC. Cole Street asks, what does your week-by-week preparation look like in terms of getting ready for a broadcast?
That's a good question. So we have a group of statisticians, Racing Insights, that email us all types of information. We should never complain about not having some stat or some information because it's all there. And if you dig in, I would print it all out and start looking through all of this information. And it's stuff like, hey, man, this driver has this average finish at this racetrack in the last five races. He's a guy to look at. This person's struggling here for this particular reason. These are some statistics that back up this is not a good track for this driver. And so I highlight, I throw away the sheets that I don't like, and I highlight the stuff that I do like. I might even do a one-page or a two-page note of all of the really, really good stats that I love to try to work those into my shows. But I also watch the last race, either the full race or some of the abbreviated races on YouTube to understand how the strategy played out, what to be ready for. Because, man, if you don't know there's if you don't know that there's potential for strategy in a race, and you're standing there and it starts happening and Steve starts talking, it can get your head spinning fast. So trying to understand, okay, this race could have these type of strategies play out, be ready for that. It's way easier when the broadcast is live and in the moment. There's a lot of other things to do. I mean, if you get a chance to get into a booth for a practice, that's really, really helpful because you knock out a lot of bugs and get over some of the nervousness that you have for live television. And also being able to watch the practices and really plugging into them helps you understand who's good, who isn't good, who might be worth watching when the race comes around. And you've got to, I don't know, I feel like I start every race and I want to have an idea of what I think will happen. And I want to have some ideas on what I think I'm curious about. Like, what do I not know? What driver, what team is the question mark for me? And I'm going to watch them to find out whether they do this or that. And so, I just try to figure out what's interesting. What do I find interesting, compelling, and lean into that a little bit. But it's fun, man. Planning for a broadcast is a good time. Now, when you're the play-by-play guy, which I do it maybe once a year, that's terrifying. And you feel like you need to be working every minute of every day that week, like getting ready. And I'll write out all kinds of things that I plan on saying, like to the T of exactly what I want to say when I'm going from the command or from the anthem to the command or going to commercial before the green flag. Even though I might not use all of that, I write it down and write it out. It's so it's so nerve-wracking, but it's adrenaline rush when you're in there doing it. When you're doing play-by-play like Mike Joy and Rick Allen, it is a rush because you could screw it up and it could go well. But when it goes well, nobody cares. It's supposed to go well, right?
Exactly.
It's pretty interesting.
It's like it's all on you. Yeah. There's nobody else.
Yeah. And if it goes well, then that's what you're supposed to. That's the way it's supposed to go, right? You don't get many. Nobody ever goes, "That's a hell of a job." Whoa, man, good job on that play-by-play. It just when you screw it up though, that's it's hard to hide from that.
Do you know when you're going to be doing play-by-play this year?
I haven't heard
You
anything.
don't know yet?
I don't really. If I get to do it, I get to do it. I've done it enough that I feel like I've got a good idea of how I can be a better asset to Rick or in the booth, and that's helped me understand his job and appreciate his job better, and know what his role really truly is. Because I came into this, man, knowing nothing about broadcasting. Like, I didn't know nothing about it, and so I've enjoyed getting to do it. If I don't get to do it anymore, that's fine. But if I do, I'll see how we do.
Yeah, it's definitely cool watching you in those different roles besides just, the analyst
Yeah.
on TV. This next question comes from our YouTube chat from Kent. What happens in the infield care center? They see the driver get in the ambulance
That's a
and
great
then they
question.
see them get released. But
Yeah.
what happens in between that time?
Well, when you go into the infield care center, they're all a little different as far as the layout, but there'll be there's usually like a horseshoe desk in the middle, and there'll be a bunch of people in there doing different roles and responsibilities. And I'm not sure exactly what their roles are, but there'll be a lead like neurosurgeon and possibly a lead doctor. So there'll be a guy in there to be able to check you out for a concussion in the room, but there'll also be a physician to manage any kind of breaks or any kind of severe wound or whatever you might have, right? And so if you got pain anywhere that may be a break or a bruise, that's two different people, right, working on top of you. And so off to the side, there's gurneys, and they're divided by the curtains, right? So there's one room with about 3 gurneys for however many drivers are in there at the same time, and you're all divided by a curtain. No, you don't go to you don't have a room. And the times that I've actually been in there where there's a multi-car crash, and it's interesting because every driver's in a different state of mind.
Right.
Guy might be in there madder than hell. Somebody might be in there, not in too bad of a mood. But it's really, it's a really surreal moment when you're all sitting in there and everybody's kind of getting checked out. They check your pulse and give you a good kind of physical exam and ask you a lot of questions, and they're watching you, listening to you answer questions, listening to how you're responding, paying attention. They've seen the wreck maybe on television and a monitor in the room. They weren't in the car with you. They weren't out there watching it live. So they're very inquisitive, and it's sometimes can be annoying because you're mad, right? You're out of the race. You're upset about that, but they're asking these questions for a reason, trying to truly understand how they might need to examine you and what they might want to pay the most attention to. But eventually, man, they're like, hey, you're good to go. You get up and you walk toward the exit, and there'll be maybe a PR person or somebody with your team or somebody in your own family or your own group that's with you, holding on to all your shit. They got your helmet and your earplugs and your gloves, and they're like, hey, you feeling okay? And you're like, yeah, doing all right. Then I'll be honest with you, in that moment right there, the heartbreak sets in of the actual fact that you crashed and you're out of the race, right? The result's going to suck. You have to wait all week to go back to the racetrack to redeem yourself. It's like this, right as you're walking out of that medical center, you're like, oh yeah, the reality of all of this is that I had a terrible day, a terrible result. And so and then you end up, walking into a media scrum or something like that.
Yeah.
Trying to explain what's going on.
That's interesting. You don't really think about it until
you don't.
You're just walking out.
Nope.
Yeah. What's the ambulance ride? Because mentioned like multi-car accidents. Sometimes you'll ride with other drivers. Is there much discussion usually, or is everyone pretty quiet?
I've only rode in an ambulance with other drivers maybe on less than half a dozen occasions, and it's a lot of bravado. You're like, it's kind, you kind of get in there and you're like, man, those hits were hard. Oh man, you believe that guy did that? You're sort of, you're deflecting a lot, right? Of, how your true emotions are disappointment, regret about the situation, regret about the situation you're in, and you deflect a lot. You deflect a lot. It's kind of like this sort of macho reaction. and it's then you get out, but the ambulance rides are quick, and they don't strap you down or lay you down in there. You just hop in, sit. There's a bench. You sit down, and they're just kind of start asking you questions. Hey, man, you doing okay? You feeling all right? You got any pain? You hurt anywhere? And you'll go answer the same questions in the medical center to the rest of the staff. But
right.
Yeah.
This next question coming from Christopher. I'm going to Nashville for the first time next week, and we were talking again about NASCAR being back at Nashville the last couple of years. What are the places he should check out? What are the things he should do in Nashville?
Old Red.
Yeah,
that's right.
Broadway, man. There's there's a lot of history in that town, but it's hard to beat going to Broadway on a Friday or Saturday night. Of course, we're going to be down at Old Red on Friday night doing a Dale Jr. Download podcast live, probably around 8:30. So come out and see us if you're in town. We had a great time there last year with Darrell Waltrip, and we'll be there talking for an hour or more. But
and for what it's worth, that thing was packed to the rim, and they locked the doors a couple hours before that show even started.
Shoot.
Just FYI. Don't know if it'll be that way this year, but just plan ahead.
There are so many bars on Broadway, and they are all uniquely different. So as you go in each and every one, there's newer ones, older ones, more historic ones, and they have so many nooks and crannies, and like some bars have multiple bars, right? You'll walk in one room and there's a bar here, and you'll walk around and upstairs is another bar, and it's pretty cool. I mean, if you like that sort of stuff, which I do, I enjoy kind of bar hopping and doing that sort of thing every once in a while. And so it's a good time for me. But and I like the historic, older dive barish type places that have been around for a long time, and finding a stool and posting up for a couple hours. And but there's every type of bar you can imagine. It's like it's a lot of fun.
Oh, we got time for one more quick one. Coming from the YouTube chat. This is from Racer Kid. What's your favorite piece of merchandise that has ever been made, like, for you? Like, most unique thing?
Oh. Well, I'm trying. I mean, no. That's a tough one. I know we just did that Business of Motorsports podcast that is really fascinating. If you haven't listened to it yet, my sister and Mike talked to Joe Mattis, who has been in the souvenir business for decades, and y'all went really deep into some of the information that y'all presented to fans, and y'all talked a lot about all the unique souvenirs that got made. I thought it was always interesting to see your face on like a snowboard or anything like that. I always thought it was interesting to see it on stuff that I didn't even do, right? Like snowboarding. I never snowboarded in my life, right? And so there's a snowboard. I've got a couple. I got a storage building, and it has at least one, if not two or three, of everything that was ever made.
Wow.
Ever. Huh. And I can take you to the snowboards right this second. I know exactly where they're at. And, so some of that stuff was like, man, I can't believe there's me and the Bud car on a snowboard, right? Who's going to use this, right? And I'd love to meet that person, right? But
what was your least favorite? Because Joe Kelly and I had a lot of fun talking about those. You used to get so mad at some of them.
Wow, like what?
The Cabbage Patch Kids.
Yeah, I didn't love the Cabbage Patch Kids or the dolls and stuff like that.
I remember the calendars was always a thing. You didn't like. Nobody uses calendars anymore. Yeah. Ain't nobody do that. But they would come up with some whack things now, like the toothbrushes. That Kelly brought that up, but apparently. Joe said that the Cabbage Patch thing, he still has a little PTSD from that butt chewing. But they're also probably one of the more collectible things of value these days.
I guess, yeah. There's some things that I don't understand. I guess that is one of the that's one of the things that's always struck me as a little odd, is that there are things like the Cabbage Patch doll that is universally connected, right? Cabbage Patch, Barbie, there's all of these things that are, and it's typically the dolls, right? What's that one thing with the big head?
Like the
Yeah.
Pez. Pez
The
dispenser?
bobbleheads?
No. It's like they're in these square boxes. Everybody's got you signing them these days, and they have these round heads.
Funko?
Yeah, Funko, right? Is that?
Or like I know
Something
what you're talking about.
All right, I'm seeing them things everywhere, and I'm like, what is this? Where did it come from? Why do people want this? And so that to me was, we're racers, and we've raced. We sell die casts. We sell T-shirts with race cars on them, and hats and flags and whatever. We sell things that are. I've always like, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's connected to racing. That makes sense. But then there'll be these sort of collectibles that are universal, that have nothing to do with racing, that we end up getting ourselves involved in. And I'm like, people really want this? And they do.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I've signed more of those little doll things in the last year. I've signed more of those than any other item.
Wow.
I'll go out front after this podcast, and I promise you I'll sign 4 or 5 of them. And
wow.
And they're like, I want it in a specific pin. It's got to match the box. And so there's like this group of people in every sort of, there's like this core group of people that collect that specific item, no matter who it's about. They just collect that doll, no matter how many variations of it are made, right? And so, yeah, I mean, if there's some universal popular item happening, NASCAR goes, oh, what's that? What's going on over there? Can we make? Can we put our drivers on those? Let's get into that business. Those things are going like hotcakes. And the next thing you know, I got one in my hand with somebody wanting an autograph on it. I'm like, they make this? I don't even see this stuff I don't even see this stuff get approved, right?
And those were the moments, and we talked about them on the podcast.
Yeah.
But like when Dale Jr. used to do these live QVCs, and people on this YouTube probably, there's somebody that remembers them. But Dale's live on QVC channel, and then you got the same
Live
host.
television.
We know him, and they were like, all right, next up is Dale Jr. toilet seat cushion. Dale Jr. toilet seat cushion. Go ahead, everybody, start buying. They're flying off the shelves. Dale Jr., what do you think about this? And Dale would be like, trying to fake excitement about it, but then you could see in his eyes he is about to rip into somebody's butt when he comes off the stage. Oh, and it was man. Looking back, it was always kind of funny that and of course I could understand that. I could understand that because it's impossible for him to approve all that stuff.
Right.
Madness is out there getting stuff on everything that makes money. That's his job.
Yeah.
But man, did he have some doozies. Like they got creative.
Yeah. Well, I'll say y'all should listen to that that podcast on Dirty Mode Media. What is it called?
Business and Motorsports.
Business and Motorsports.
Yeah,
That's right.
It's just last week. 2 episodes. Joe Mattis. Listen to that one. It is. I have had more people text me about that. I had a guy, buddy of mine, text me on the drive-in, going, "I could not freaking believe those stories from Joe about." He talks about the boom of the souvenir business when Dad was really at his peak, and Dad was a big player in trying to get all of the drivers on the same page. Hey, we can all do this together. And then when we had our thing going in 2004 through 2008, he tells some stories there that I didn't even know. I didn't even know some of that information. I was like, whoa, shit. Right.
So pretty incredible stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking at the YouTube chat. They're commenting their own Dale Jr. apparel. And they're saying, hey, I'm typing with my Dale Jr. mouse pad. And I've got
love
a
that.
Budweiser mirror.
There you go.
So, yeah.
I've had several Dale Jr. mouse pads in my time. And I usually, I guess, lately I've gotten into diecast more than I ever was, right? I mean, diecast way back were a massive thing. Everybody was buying diecast. They had every color. They had chrome, silver, bronze. They would do a die cast in any form that they thought it would sell, and of the very same car would have 14 different variations and different levels of detail.
Yeah,
it was insane.
it's wild.
But here lately, I've gotten into diecast, I think, more than I ever was, and it's I've enjoyed doing that. I've actually got 2 towers in my house, 2 spinning towers anyone could buy, full to the brim of my favorite diecasts.
Damn,
Not mine. There's only a couple of me in there. Most of them are Dad and some other drivers.
that's neat.
Yeah.
That's a great place to end it this week on Ask
Yeah,
Junior.
I appreciate it. Some good questions, man. We had a great show today. Talked a little bit about Sonoma. We talked about life. I had a little vacation we talked about, and gearing up for Nashville. Like I said, hope everybody has a great Father's Day. Tomorrow's guest for our Dale Jr. Download is Richie Gilmore. Richie built engines in NASCAR forever. He built all the motors that I won races with in the Bud 8 car. And I can't wait to ask him about how he created all that power for us back then. But he's had a pretty interesting career, and he's still involved in the sport today. Looking forward to talking to him, and you'll be able to see that tomorrow. Otherwise, don't forget about the Thursday show, our recap, and tune into all the other things Dirty Mo's got going on. It's been a solid year so far, and we're hitting the halfway mark, and we're just getting started. So see you guys soon.